All right, a good Wednesday afternoon to you. I'm Fox 26 meteorologist John Dawson. Glad you're here, ready for the tropical update, and there is a lot to talk about if you are in Florida or really just, let's say, the southeastern portions of the United States. Be ready. Tomorrow is the day we're going to be seeing Helene make a landfall, and the latest update from the National Hurricane Center now has this storm even more powerful than what the previous updates have been. So let's dive into things a little bit. Well, as expected, Helene getting away from these land masses of Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula and really beginning to have some opportunity for intensification, for growth, getting better organized, more fuel to work with all the warm water. And again, that land just sort of slows everything down and messes up that perfect symmetry that a storm likes to have when it really starts to get more organized. That is what we're seeing right now, and we're still at a Category 1 hurricane, but we're going to continue to see this growth happen. Now, our satellite imagery here on visible starts to kind of fade away because we're already beginning to get the impacts of the sun setting across the horizon. So I know the sun's not actually setting yet here in this part of the world, but we begin to see the impacts of that because this is visible imagery, just like if we were up in the space ourselves on the satellites, kind of looking down just a little bit. And you could see that swirl, though. You could see that opening where that eye is really beginning to take its form a little bit. So latest information, again, this is, if you're not watching live, it's Wednesday, 4 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center, maximum sustained winds at 85 miles an hour. The forecast track has not changed a whole lot, still taking this towards the panhandle of Florida, but here's the key. By the time we get to tomorrow afternoon, those winds have picked up to 130. That's the minimum wind speed needed for a Category 4, but still, we've gone from a high-end Category 3 to now a low-end Category 4. Major hurricane, there's going to be lots of problems along the Florida coast as this system begins to make its landfall. And what's even more concerning is this system, we'll look at some more satellite imagery here in a minute, but it is a very large system overall. So it's not just the fact that these winds are 130 miles an hour, it's that the winds reach out for quite a distance. Not those 130 mile an hour winds necessarily, but the tropical storm force winds reach way out. Pretty much at sunrise tomorrow on Thursday in Tampa, we will see tropical storm force winds already arriving that early in the day. So really all day long, tropical storm force winds are going to be expected across this western edge of Florida, and it's going to stay until that landfall takes place. Right now, we're roughly, again, saying around 7 o'clock on Thursday evening is when this landfall is expected. It'll, of course, downgrade pretty quick once it makes landfall. We're looking at 80 mile an hour winds early on Friday morning, still a hurricane, almost reaching to Atlanta. That's not something good to hear at all for this part of the country as well. So obviously the storm surge, the winds, certainly going to be a threat for Florida, but watch how this goes all the way up into the Tennessee and the Carolinas. Going to get some rain as well. So we'll roll all this out here in our Futurecast for you. Again, this is the exclusive Fox model. You're not going to see this other places unless it's Fox. So a Fox television station or Fox weather. This is exclusive to our company, and it does a great job with the tropics, and it's really going to be able to track here as we continue to see the impacts. Look at all of this rain that's way out ahead of where the eye of the storm is on Thursday morning early. I talked about Tampa getting those winds, and we're approaching that landfall roughly 7 to 8 o'clock at night. So this is going to be, as the sun sets, the impacts are really going to start hitting. So a lot of the worst of what could happen could be at night, which is always sort of an extra dangerous situation. And look at all that rain as all that moisture gets whipped back up into the Ohio Valley region, up into Tennessee. Here's what we're definitely concerned with for the folks right along the coast of Florida, and that is the storm surge. Traditionally, this has been the deadliest component of the threats that are brought by hurricanes. It's so hard to defend yourself against these types of powerful waters right on shore. So this is definitely a concern as we see pretty much to the north of Tampa. Anywhere really that we get over a couple of feet, there's definitely the danger for life-threatening storm surge happening. But this area here is over 12 feet. The last numbers that I've seen are 15 feet or possibly even higher for this part of Florida. So that's going to be something that's very much of a concern. Fairly quiet right now. This is a live look at St. Pete Beach. This is sort of in the Tampa area overall. Definitely going to be looking at some storm surge here, more in the 5 to 8 foot range. But this is, again, quiet right now. This will be a totally different picture once we look at tomorrow. Here's our rainfall expectations through Friday. So even a little further into Saturday, once this system gets up even north of Atlanta and into the Nashville area, could see even some more rain, but we're looking at that 10 inches or more of rain possibilities all the way up into the Charlotte area as well. So the Carolinas certainly going to be looking at some rainfall that will cause flooding problems. Asheville right in the middle of it, maybe as high as 15 to 18 inches of rainfall. So this we aren't going to get too focused on this specific location because this kind of rain could really be happening anywhere in this region. Really, those isolated areas will be even more of a problem overall. So the bigger picture is still sort of what we've been looking at as far as the steering components. This front that's sort of slowly crawling and stalling out a little bit is going to help turn that system to the northeast. It hasn't quite made that northeasterly track yet. This is the spaghetti plot model, so when you get all those models together, pretty close there that Tallahassee is sort of that bullseye. Although as we continue to talk about, we don't want to focus too much on that. Well, all that region is where we're getting the problems for sure. Helene is another hurricane that will mark down for this year, Category 1 right now, but again, will be strengthening. Expect that to possibly be a Category 4. Probably not going to have time to get to a Category 5 in strength, but certainly a powerful Category 4 is expected. And again, this is the 5th hurricane. We had Beryl, Debbie, Ernesto, Francine, all hurricanes. And then we've got Helene, that now a hurricane for the 2024 season in the Atlantic. Here's our Futurecast once again. This is the Fox model showing you that rotation, that storm moving up into the northeast, making that landfall around 7:30 to 8 o'clock at night, and then bringing all that rainfall up and even getting its way worked over, not just to Nashville, but working its way over towards Memphis and Arkansas, and looks like Missouri even will be getting some of this rain that's tropical related, as Helene is really getting itself positioned now where it can get itself out in those open waters and grow even stronger. So as far as those categories of storm strength go, we just are expecting that 130 mile an hour storm now before it makes landfall, and whether it can maintain that strength for those several hours before that landfall is sort of yet to be determined, but certainly a possibility. And this could be, again, a very powerful storm as it makes its landfall overall. So that bigger picture sort of backing up here that we're looking at on this Wednesday, where we've got some upper level winds helping to steer this with a low pressure system as well. High pressure that's been over in the Atlantic, that's kind of funneling it right on in here. Really have done a great job of forecasting this so well in advance. I've really been impressed with what the National Hurricane Center has been able to do, and the technology that we have now to really give lots of warning. That's one thing that I've been kind of reading about a little bit, is the fact that this storm has had a lot of preparation time and warning. Really, I remember on Friday we were talking about this storm and that it would be heading over into the eastern portions of the Gulf, and so hopefully everyone in Florida has had time to really kind of pay attention and be looking into that. So on Wednesday, we're already beginning to see some of those rain bands hit portions of the state and developing into that hurricane and growing even stronger, bringing that moisture in. So let's talk about the tornado potential, all that rotation that gets spun up as this system continues to move through. This would be the area that we're looking at on Thursday morning, anywhere from Miami all the way through to Tampa. And then when we get a little bit further down the line on Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening, that could even shift to the north more and start to include portions of Georgia as well, as we get that spin going from the hurricane, that gives the opportunity. Normally, that's always taking place on the northeastern quadrant, or other words, to the northeast of wherever that eye is. That does get wrapped around a little bit further to the south here, especially with our peninsula, allowing those winds to really get whipped around a little bit more, having that possibility of some of that rotation. Do remember, though, generally speaking, these types of tornadoes that are spawned by hurricanes are kind of a different kind. It's not what we would see out in Oklahoma or the normal tornado alley that we refer to. Those tornadoes, gigantic monsters that are on the ground for miles, not the type of tornadoes that we see here. Still big enough, strong enough, and last long enough to rip roofs off of houses, but not as the same as what we kind of visualize when we think of those tornadoes that we have happen across the plains of the U.S. Thursday morning, looking at those strong winds, I talked about Tampa possibly beginning to get those tropical storm force winds as early as Thursday morning. The strongest winds obviously much closer in to the eye, but we'll continue to see gusts that could be stronger moving in. And then once we get later into the day, into the afternoon, tomorrow, that's when we begin to see a much more of the coast with that potential of seeing some of those winds or even gusts that are at least Category 1 hurricane strength. And then when we get to Thursday, here's our rain concerns once we get into Thursday evening. I talked about this being an evening landfall. This could be a nighttime flooding situation for much of Georgia. Also into Mississippi, certainly a possibility, but that's going to be something that is taken into account and looked into as we look at that, or Alabama as far as what the concerns are with that making a landfall overall. So again, the latest information that we have from the Hurricane Center is that it is currently a Category 1 hurricane. Those maximum sustained winds at 85 miles an hour, starting to speed up a little bit. That movement now to the north at around 12 miles per hour. Okay, again, if you're watching live, want to make sure you're back here in about 50 minutes. We'll have our complete newscast. If you're not watching live, just a reminder, we're here every day of hurricane season, whether there's something making a landfall or not. Check back in whether you're on YouTube or fox26houston.com or, of course, Fox Local. All ways to stay connected, talking about the tropics, and we'll again continue to keep you updated on Helene as it makes its way towards Florida.